So, about a year ago, I had the sudden urge to make some Godzilla videos on my channel. Since I hadn't really established how big of a Godzilla fan I was just yet, it was also the franchise's 65th anniversary. King of the Monsters had also been released that year, so the occasion felt just right. This resulted in me releasing 28 Godzilla reviews between August and September 2019 in the course of just 21 days. Hell, there were even some days where I would end up releasing multiple reviews in one day, to the surprise of my subscribers, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know why, but if you can get me talking about Godzilla, you're basically opening a Pandora's box, and it's about to become open again. All while putting out these individual reviews, I even compiled them into their own massive videos, separated by each Godzilla era. I did this mainly so the individual reviews could be in their own playlist, and not clog up the Coop's reviews playlist. Things were going pretty consistently well with these reviews, though by mid-September 2019, I did start kinda slacking a bit when I got to the Millennium era. The daily uploads since August 28th finally came to an end after September 10th. Nothing was uploaded on September 11th. I don't completely remember why. I guess I just wanted to take a break on 9/11. But once the 12th got around, I went back to cranking out the last few reviews. Releases for the Millennium era were a bit more stretched out than the previous videos, which is kinda weird when you think about it because that was probably the shortest era of Godzilla movies, though 3 reviews still ended up coming out on the same fucking day. The constant uploading eventually came to an end with both the Godzilla against Mechagodzilla and Godzilla Tokyo SOS reviews. You may be surprised to hear this, but I was actually horribly burnt out for releasing 28 videos in the span of 21 days. Not to mention having to release 2 big compilation videos of the reviews in the midst of all that. Yeah, after all that craziness, I didn't upload any more Godzilla videos. I just needed a freaking break, dude. Eventually, in November 2019, I finally released my review of Godzilla Final Wars, finishing the Millennium era of Godzilla movies, and finally closing off the original run of Godzilla films. I also finally got to make a compilation video for the Millennium era too. Yay. So, if you somehow couldn't gather from all this, I fucking love Godzilla. I would even go as far to say I'm a bigger Godzilla fan than I am a Sonic fan. I for sure have been a Godzilla fan for way longer. While these reviews are some of my shortest and are not as in-depth or detailed as my other content, and even though I got horribly burnt out by the end of it, I actually did have a lot of fun making these videos. It felt nice to finally introduce my audience to another side of me that loves these goofy-ass movies, and I hope I helped pique anyone's interest in checking out these movies for themselves. Especially with these rapid-fire reviews of mine. Every time I go on a break or stop uploading for a while, I usually feel bad for not providing you guys with content, but I always have to try to remind myself that I literally released 29 Godzilla reviews in 1 year. Then I don't feel as bad. Honestly, I feel like if there are still super entitled people out there who feel that I owe them content that I make for free, yet they don't watch my Godzilla reviews I put out because they probably don't care, then what the hell are you watching my channel for? Because clearly you're not here for me. If you want to count the Godzilla reviews as their own individual episodes, then this means that Coop's Reviews has a significant amount of more episodes than Cooper's Perspective. Like, it's not even funny or fair to compare the amount of episodes. It's crazy. While I have done my service when it comes to making more than enough Godzilla reviews, there's still some Godzilla material out there that's just waiting to be discussed. With Godzilla vs. Kong being delayed to next year, I figured I'd talk about the remaining Godzilla movies I haven't looked at yet, specifically the 3 movies made a decade after Final Wars. These films include the American-made Godzilla 2014, Toho's Shin Godzilla, and the sequel to Godzilla 2014, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I was going to give each of these movies their own individual reviews, but I figured I'd try to keep it a bit simpler and just put my thoughts on all 3 films into one video. I also don't think I necessarily have that much to say about each film, at least not at the time of writing this review. We'll see. So, for this special video, I'm going to be wrapping up my reviews of every Godzilla movie by reviewing the last 3 films that are left. along with mentioning a few other things related to the Big G. Anyways, let's get this started with Godzilla 2014 is a movie I remember following extensively when it was in production. Like, the moment it started, to the various leaks we got online, to the first trailer, and to the eventual release. I even remember when Godzilla's new design was revealed. It was incredible. I even looked into who was directing the movie. Gareth Edwards, who had previously worked on the independent movie, Monsters, which was decent, and would later go on to direct Rogue One, a boring movie. A Star Wars movie. Yeah, Rogue One sucked. But this video isn't about Star Wars. It's about my boy. By the looks of it, it seemed like Edwards had a huge respect for the Godzilla character. He was a definite good choice for directing this movie. Way better than these two a-holes. That first trailer, man. I was so hyped when it dropped. We barely even saw Godzilla in it, but they seriously nailed the tone in the first trailer, with Bryan Cranston yelling about how they're hiding something, mixed with the awesome and chilling music. I could not wait to see this new Godzilla movie. Hell, every time a freaking poster was released, I was all over that shit. Like this smoke poster, look how fucking rad this poster is. So damn cool. The movie was also releasing in 2014, the series' 60th anniversary, so it was just right for the occasion. I sadly didn't get to see this one in theaters, but I made sure to sit down and watch it as soon as I could, even if it meant pirating the damn movie. Which I did. I own it on Blu-ray now. Please don't sue me, Warner Brothers. This was like 6 years ago and I needed to watch this movie ASAP. Going into it, the tone for this movie was pretty serious, taking it back to the series' roots in a way. The film starts out with two scientists investigating a giant skeleton of a monster in a cavern. One of them is played by the legendary Ken Watanabe. I love him! And he's playing a character named Ashiro Serizawa, not only taking the last name from Dr. Serizawa from the 1954 original Godzilla, but his first name is also taken from director Ishiro Honda, who directed the original. I love it. What a nice tribute. We then cut to the awesome Bryan Cranston working at a power plant, where a meltdown of sorts starts to occur, to which Cranston's wife ends up being closed in after he has no other choice but to seal her in. It's actually a pretty tense scene, and Bryan Cranston sells it really well. 15 years later, Cranston's son, Ford, played by Kick-Ass, grows up to be in the Navy. He's also married and has a kid of his own. Meanwhile, Bryan Cranston has become unhealthily obsessed with finding out what caused the power plant to melt down 15 years ago. This leads to Heisenberg and Kick-Ass breaking into the restricted area where their home used to be, and they're captured and taken away to a facility. We soon meet up with Serizawa, who gives more info on what caused the meltdown, and shows them a giant cocoon that's been growing for the past 15 years. Then it just so happens the cocoon finally opens, and a giant creature pops out and leaves, but not without getting Bryan Cranston killed at the 40-minute mark of a 2-hour movie. Oh boy. Then another giant creature appears, and Serizawa dubs these creatures as the Muto, which stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism. That's cool and all, but where the hell is Godzilla? Don't worry, he finally appears. You know, after 55 minutes in. Yeah, Godzilla does not even appear on screen until like halfway through the movie. Jesus. Well, I guess I'll finally talk about him. His new design is really cute. He's quite a big boy. I've seen a lot of people complain about how fat he is, but we don't allow fat-shaming Godzilla on this channel, so shut your mouths and be respectful to the king of the monsters. I also love his new roars. The sound designers really did an amazing job at making this Godzilla sound unique and cool. Way better than Godzilla 98's elephant roars. The design itself is just overall better. Honestly, Edwards and the production team did an excellent job. Again, he's really cute. Anyways, the plot soon becomes about the Navy needing to lure Godzilla and the Mutos together to end up fighting. This results in us seeing brief glimpses of Godzilla and one of the Mutos fighting, only for it to be cut off. Damn. Actually, it's not until the very end of the movie when we finally get to see some kind of monster action. The finale is really good and entertaining, but it just takes so long to reach that point. This is a huge problem I see a lot of people have with this movie. Godzilla 2014 really puts its focus on the human characters more than the monster fights. I've seen a few fans do some videos compiling every scene Godzilla himself is in, and each video ends up being only about 10 minutes of a 2-hour movie. Granted, compared to the 98 movie, Godzilla 2014 is just 15 minutes shorter, so there's that. It's also shorter than Godzilla Final Wars, by like 1 minute, but whatever. Now, people's complaints are valid since the human characters in this movie are kind of boring. I love Ken Watanabe. He really commands every scene he's in super well, but he doesn't have as much screen time as I wish he did. The only other actor I really loved in this movie was Bryan Cranston. I thought his character's story was really sad and interesting, but they killed him off way too soon. He really should have been in more of the movie. Cranston definitely would have been a way better lead than Kick-Ass here, because, no offense to Aaron Taylor Johnson, but Ford is really not interesting. Johnson does a good job playing the role, but he has almost no charisma, and barely any kind of arc happens with this character. He does have a wife and kid. Okay. By the way, his wife is being played by Elizabeth Olsen, who you might recognize more as Scarlet Witch in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Godzilla 2014 was the first time Olsen and Taylor Johnson appeared in a movie together, and the two would later go on to appear in Avengers Age of Ultron, with them playing Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver respectively, where they were brother and sister, and in Godzilla they were playing husband and wife. That's a little weird to see going back to these movies. Side note, Age of Ultron sucked. Also, Olsen's character name is L. Remember that for later. Moving on, I'm not too crazy about the human characters, so I guess I'll just focus on the monster scenes, as little as there are in this movie. Well, if there's one thing Gareth Edwards can do really right, it's establishing how massive something is on screen. Every scene with Godzilla and the Mutos are amazingly well shot. You really feel the true scope of these giant monsters. The introductions of both the Mutos are pulled off super well, and Godzilla's entry scene is phenomenal. I just love how his massive foot literally stomps into frame. It's so fucking good. Like I said, Edwards is great at framing the monsters in all their scenes, but almost every scene with them is ruined by how the movie keeps cutting away from the action, and it's not until the finale when we get some decent monster fights. This is a great finale, by the way. It just came in way too late. Better late than never, I guess. The staging of the monster fights have all been good at this point, so that holds true here as well, and I love how fluent the fights can look. The CG in this movie is super well done, but the Blu-ray version of this movie doesn't do it any favors. The picture is way too dark. I'm gonna have to brighten up a lot of the scenes in this movie, but that didn't matter to me at the time when I finally sat down and watched this movie. Honestly, I was just excited to finally see this movie after missing it in theaters. Even with Bryan Cranston dying early on, all the monster fights getting cut off when they would start, and the fact that the best monster fight didn't happen until about an hour and 40 minutes in, I just wanted to have a good time with whatever this movie was gonna give me. I loved the one scene they made a trailer of, where the Navy troops are dropping into the city where Godzilla and the Mutos are. It is really well shot, and the 2001 music they included really sell the scene more. It's a memorable moment from this movie that I'll never forget. The monster fight at the end is so well done. I love how you can feel the weight of each monster during the fight. I take that Gareth Edwards probably wanted these fight scenes to feel more realistic, so the physics and every other aspect of the fight are given extra attention to them to make sure they come off as real as possible. There is some awesome city destruction throughout. Seriously. Oh yeah, the Navy discovers that the Mutos have laid eggs, so they end up planting a bunch of explosives to destroy all their eggs. After all the explosives detonate, we see one of the Mutos looking down on their dead children, and it's actually kind of sad. The body language on all the monsters are animated really well. Like, I just felt so bad for the Muto here. Then, one of the coolest scenes in the movie happens. It's the scene I waited for the most. Nothing in my life will ever give me as much chills as this scene did. I'm not joking. Watch. This is the first time we've seen an American Godzilla have the proper atomic breath. I flipped my shit at this scene. It was so amazing. I could seriously watch this over and over again. Okay, I want to talk about the music now. The soundtrack for this movie was composed by Alexander Desplat, who I think did a pretty solid job. The score is pretty serviceable stuff. Not anything amazing like what the great Akira Ifukube did, but Desplat did the best he could. While we're on the topic of Ifukube's music, in some songs, was Desplat trying to make slight references to Akira's music? I noticed that some parts of the soundtrack had little references here and there. I'm gonna guess that these were intentional callbacks, and if so, that's very cool. Thanks, Alexander. Okay, getting back to the fight, the way Godzilla kills the flying Muto is really sweet. He just slams him into the building with his tail. Like, god damn, that impact is incredible. Ooh. But then you see the little guy just die there, all impaled and everything. Aww. This movie really knows how to make me feel bad for these two creatures. I just feel sad to see them suffer. Kind of. The way the first Muto dies is really sad, but the way the second Muto dies is... Okay, I know I said earlier that nothing in my life has ever given me as much chills as that atomic breath scene did. Well, it was that scene, and this next one. The way Godzilla kills the second Muto is one of the most badass scenes I've ever seen. So earlier, Godzilla gets trampled by this massive skyscraper. It just falls right on top of him and puts him out of commission for a bit. Then Ford is trying to escape the area, but then he's stopped by the last remaining Muto. Ford is then saved by Godzilla, who pops out of nowhere and kills the Muto in the most godlike way possible. He grabs the Muto by its mouth, pries its jaws open, and shoots his fucking atomic breath down his mouth. Oh my god! Wow, that was awesome! My fucking jaw dropped when I saw this for the first time. It was so amazing. One last thing about this movie that I'll mention is that I love the last shot. First off, after killing the last Muto, Godzilla falls over and knocks out from all the fighting. He then wakes up the next day amongst all the wreckage, then gets up, walks away, and swims back home. He doesn't destroy the city more or anything. His job is done and he just wants to leave. What a bro. I love how the music swells when he roars, and I adore how the last shot lingers on him as he dives into the ocean. Such a pretty way to end the movie. And that's really all I have to say about Godzilla 2014. I can definitely understand why most people weren't too crazy about it. The humans are kind of uninteresting, and the parts where it keeps cutting away from the monster fights just gets really annoying. I do share the same critiques that other people have, but I'm also one of the very few people who still enjoyed the movie regardless. The finale is just so much fun for me, but I do agree that it seriously takes a while to really get there. I still have a lot of respect for what Gareth Edwards was trying to do here. I'd probably say this is the best movie to feature Godzilla, made in America. And I would honestly sit through this again more than the '98 movie. I get the feeling that this was made by true Godzilla fans who had huge respect for the source material, and just wanted to make a good movie with the character. I love the idea of placing Godzilla in a more realistic environment, but I can understand if this more serious tone and plot can be a turnoff for some people, who maybe go to Godzilla movies for more monster action and other things. If anything, Godzilla 2014 was a great setup for what's now known as the Monsterverse. The movie was thankfully a huge hit, making about $525 million at the box office. It felt kinda nice to see that enough people really cared about Godzilla to go see it. It was a big risk for Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures, so I'm glad it paid off. It eventually led to Kong Skull Island and King of the Monsters coming later. Plus, we're about to get a third movie in the series that's essentially a remake of King Kong vs. Godzilla. Can't wait for that. And for now, I enjoyed Godzilla 2014. It's not perfect or not even one of my favorite Godzilla movies, but I liked what I saw and I'm happy it exists. Nuff said. Recommended. So after the smash hit success of Godzilla 2014, Toho decided to jump in on the new resurgence of Godzilla with another movie, which they would release 2 years after the 2014 movie. It was also 12 years since Godzilla Final Wars, so it was pretty exciting to see Toho make another one finally. The initial US title for the movie was actually going to be Godzilla Resurgence. Not a bad title. However, after Funimation took over, they changed the title back to Shin Godzilla. Shin apparently means a few things in Japanese, meaning true, new, or God. Yeah, I'm gonna assume it's supposed to mean new or true in this case, because God Godzilla sounds a little ridiculous. The movie would end up being directed by, sorry if I'm butchering their names, Hideki Anno and Shinji Higuchi. Apparently, Hideki worked on Evangelion, and Shinji worked on the 90s Gamera movies. That's pretty cool, I guess. I never watched Evangelion, but I loved the 90s Gamera movies. They were fun. This was actually the first Godzilla movie I got to see in theaters, mainly because Funimation got the rights to theatrically release it here in America. And the closest theater next to me that was playing it was like 2 hours away. But I still chose to drive all that way just to see this movie, because it's Godzilla. I also remember it was subtitled instead of dubbed. I usually prefer subs, but mainly when I'm at the comfort of my own home so I can focus a bit more. So seeing the whole movie subbed on the big screen was kind of a hassle to pay attention to. And after seeing the movie, what did I think of it? It's alright. Essentially, the plot is about what if Godzilla happened for real. So it's not as outlandish or big as the past Toho movies, which I did find a little disappointing. The plot involves a giant creature emerging from the ocean that ends up tearing up Japan. The creature evolves more and more, until it becomes this towering monster that causes all sorts of destruction throughout Tokyo. The people of Japan try to work on a plan to stop this creature, which they dub Gojira. And that's pretty much the plot. In a nutshell, Shin Godzilla is a very well-crafted, decent movie. I just find it a little slow. The plot moves at a very gradual pace. We do meet some pretty fun characters, but they're nowhere near as interesting as the characters from the earlier movies. I do like the way Godzilla looks when he's fully evolved. When we first see him, he's got these cartoonishly big eyes. It's the one part of the movie where it comes off as being ridiculous. However, once he's grown to be a massive and indestructible being, he's admittedly pretty freaky looking. Though in a really odd choice, all of Godzilla's roars are just reused from the 1954 film. I don't mind. They just sound really out of place and low quality, but I'll let it slide. Mainly since I still love the original Godzilla roars. I remember when the look of Godzilla in this movie was leaked online. I actually took all the leaked pictures and tweeted about it. The tweet went semi-viral, about 1,000 likes, a couple hundred retweets. It got around. I remember thinking he looked absolutely terrifying and creepy looking, but I really liked it. I think the photos were of an animatronic of this Godzilla design that was ultimately cut from the final movie. It's really neat to see that they still tried to do things practically, until scrapping all of it and just sticking to CG. The CG in this movie is actually pretty damn good. Godzilla looks great, and a lot of the effects hold up pretty well. Then again, Godzilla doesn't really do much besides just walk around and destroy buildings. But he does get one really cool and really intense scene. During the first time he uses his atomic breath, this version of Godzilla is proven to be ultra powerful. At first, the atomic breath is purple. Very nice. Then it just turns into pure fire as Godzilla destroys an entire city. Holy shit, everything is on fire! This is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, since it really shows the force of destruction this Godzilla truly is. And it made me respect this version of the character more as I watched it. The imagery here is incredible. The soundtrack for this movie is pretty good, though, like with Godzilla's roars, the soundtrack reuses a lot of Akira Ifukube's original recordings from the 1954 film. I mean, I can get reusing the older roars, but why the music? It literally sounds inconsistent with the new score, which was composed by Shiro Sagisu. The original music made for this movie is incredible, outstanding even. So why use old recordings of Akira Ifukube's themes? Like, the differences in audio qualities are really clashing here. Why not just record new rearrangement of those classic themes? It's a bit strange. It doesn't ruin the soundtrack or the film, but it's a bit glaring at first, and feels a bit out of place. Oh yeah, there's a scene in this movie featuring American actors, and the acting on all of them is terrible. Again, this was American actors being directed by 2 Japanese directors, so yeah, that's just another scene I could remember from this movie. There's not really that much else for me to say about Shin Godzilla. It's a fine movie. It has one scene in it that I really like, the soundtrack is good, and I do like this portrayal of Godzilla. But the movie in its entirety, not really my thing. I mean, this was Toho's first Godzilla movie in 12 years after Final Wars, which was a batshit crazy ass movie. How exactly was Toho supposed to top that? As it stands, Shin Godzilla is a decent movie. I wasn't too big on it, but maybe you'll enjoy it. I don't know. Check it out if you were interested. Oh boy, the sequel we waited 5 years for. Strangely, I wasn't following the production of this movie as much as I was the first 2. I guess once the movie got announced, I was just like, yeah, saw that coming. First movie was a hit, Shin Godzilla just came out, looking forward to this next one. I'll see it whenever I can. I did remember being confused by the final title of the movie, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Really? I get that they couldn't exactly call it Godzilla 2, or something like that, but are we really reusing the same subtitle from the 1956 Americanization of the original movie? Okay then. I actually did get to see this movie in theaters, which was pretty exciting. Gareth Edwards isn't the director this time, which I did find to be a bummer. But hey, the guy they did get to direct the sequel at least seemed to be interested in just delivering an entertaining monster flick. The movie starts and... remember the biggest complaint that people had with the 2014 movie where Godzilla was barely in it, and how he took nearly a full hour to appear on screen? Well, this movie ain't farting around as we literally get to see Godzilla in the first minute. Yep, we immediately get to see Godzilla at the start, in a flashback that takes place during the 2014 movie. That's so cool! There's no need to hide him anymore. He still looks cute. We cut away from the flashback almost immediately, but don't worry, we'll thankfully see more of Godzilla and a few others later on. We eventually meet our main characters, and we actually have a pretty solid cast. Millie Bobby Brown is in this movie, freaking 11 from Stranger Things? Hell yeah! Though ironically, I didn't watch Stranger Things until a few months after I saw this movie, so going back to this film now is just like, hey, Elle's in a Godzilla movie. That's really cool. Speaking of Elle, remember Elizabeth Olsen's character in Godzilla 2014? Yeah, she's not in this movie, but her character's name just so happened to be Elle. Yeah, that's all I wanted to bring up. Bro, O'Shea Jackson Jr. is in this movie? What? That shit's super dope. Plus, Ken Watanabe is back as Dr. Serizawa. He's one of the only returning actors from Godzilla 2014, and he thankfully has way more scenes in this movie. He's an absolute show stealer. So, the plot takes place 5 years after the events of the first movie. These giant monsters, dubbed Titans, are appearing everywhere on Earth. In fact, we almost immediately see one at the start. A giant larvae creature that hatches at a research lab. It's Mothra! I love Mothra in this movie. Her designs are really great. She's so cute. And I love how she's the first real monster scene we see in this movie. After that scene, we see... Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. The plot of this movie is a little contrived. I don't know. I'm not necessarily invested with what's actually going on. A lot of the scenes in this movie are really just excuses for the monsters to show up. Honestly, this really is just a movie for the fans. It's got fun little references like Ghidorah's Monster Zero codename, a military base called Castle Bravo, a reference to the very nuclear bomb that sparked the inspiration for the original Godzilla in the first place, plus an oxygen destroyer makes an appearance later on. And even though this movie is actually longer than the 2014 movie, it has a far quicker pace, and has way simpler character interactions. Most of the time, I only really like the characters in the movie when I see they're being played by an actor or actress that I really like O'Shea Jackson Jr., Millie Bobby Brown, probably just those two. The only real character I like in this movie is Dr. Serizawa, mainly because Ken Watanabe does such an excellent job playing him again, even with this movie's more goofy and cheesier tone.
So you'd want to make Godzilla our pet?
No. We would be his.
Yeah, that really captures how corny the dialogue can seriously get.
My God, Zilla.
Good lord, guys. Yeah, you could probably see why I'm struggling to really care about the plot. There's like a storyline where Millie Bobby Brown's parents are having this conflict because Godzilla apparently killed their son back in the first movie. So that just leads to all sorts of family drama. Like, the mom is trying to make sure the Titans rule the earth and exterminate all of mankind since we've ruined the world with our wars and pollution. I guess they're trying to convey a message about the dark side of humanity like the original Godzilla movie did. But like, that movie worked because it was taking itself seriously and was well written. Meanwhile, King of the Monsters is just trying to be a corny popcorn flick. Though this plot point does lead to one of my favorite jokes.
Over the last 60 years, Monarch has prepared bunkers around the world to save and restart civilization. I suggest you find them.
That bitch.
Damn, tell it how it is.
You're a monster.
Get it? There's like actual giant monsters in this movie, but Eleven thinks her mom is the one true monster. Isn't that so clever? Seriously, I almost don't care at all about most of the human characters in this movie. So let's get to the monsters! The main monster roundup for this movie includes the big boy himself, Mothra the Queen, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. Godzilla's first scene in this movie is really cool. I know it's technically not his first appearance in the movie, but it is his first actual scene since the opening was just a flashback to the first movie. It also happens 27 minutes into the movie. Compare that to the near hour it took him to appear in the first movie. Everything about this scene is sweet. I love the sound design, and I really like all the blue lighting from his dorsal spines lighting up the water. It's cool and I like it. Okay, Ghidorah's first appearance. 38 minutes in. He breaks out of ice. Kinda like how he broke out of ice in GMK. I love the new look for King Ghidorah. He looks so badass. And later on, we get to see what happens when he loses one of his heads. He can grow it back? What the fuck? That's so cool! Oh yeah, right after Ghidorah gets released, O'Shea reacts in the proper way, all while using this movie's one PG-13 F-bomb.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
This also leads to Godzilla and Ghidorah fighting for the first time. We get this really awesome wide shot. And we also get to hear the Godzilla theme? Yeah, that is just the regular Godzilla theme. Guess I'll talk about this now. The soundtrack was composed by Bear McCreary, who before this movie, I only knew for composing the soundtrack for the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. Okay then. The soundtrack's alright. I do personally still think the 2014 movie had a better score. However, while Alexander Desplat only included some slight references to Akira Ifukube's music, Bear McCreary just reuses the exact same themes. Good rearrangements though. He did a spectacular job. It's a very serviceable soundtrack. Back to the movie, the monster fights are fun. I know James Rolfe said he doesn't like how all the monster fights happen at night, but I don't care. They're fun. At the very least, we can actually see what's going on, unlike the 2014 movie. So sometime later, Ghidorah flies away with Godzilla in pursuit. This leads to Rodan coming into the movie, like 55 minutes in. His nickname is also revealed as the Fire Demon, which is badass. Every monster in this movie looks awesome. Rodan's first scene involves him flapping his wings to cause these huge gusts of wind to terrorize a small village, along with an intense chase scene of him using his wings to physically destroy fighter jets. This scene is so cool, I love it! Then he and Ghidorah fight for a bit? Hell yeah! Godzilla eventually arrives at the battle, but as that happens, the military sends a missile, dubbed the Oxygen Destroyer, wink wink, to try to kill all three monsters. This fails miserably, since Godzilla takes most of the impact. Rodan and Ghidorah go almost unscathed. With Godzilla out of the picture, Ghidorah is crowned the true king with some religious imagery? This leads to him becoming the true alpha that all the other titans have to bow down to, including Rodan. What a prick. We get to see more of these titans. One of them is even a giant spider. Kamunga? I mean, probably not. A man can dream though. Hey, where the hell is Mothra? Well, about an hour and 10 minutes in, she grows into her adult form and spreads her wings. What an amazing shot! Queen of the monsters! Oh yeah, they make a little reference to the twin fairies on Infant Island, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what this reference is. So, Mothra arrives at where Godzilla was hit by the Oxygen Destroyer and tries to communicate with him. Turns out, Godzilla miraculously survived, of course. However, he's become very weak from the impact, and needs an extra boost to get himself back in fighting shape. This leads to one of my favorite parts of the movie, but also one of the saddest. They realize they have to set off a nuclear device close to Godzilla, so the radiation can re-energize him again, which leads to Serizawa sacrificing himself to restore Godzilla back to his true power. This scene is pretty sad, mainly since Serizawa was the only real character I liked in this movie, so seeing him go made me pretty sad. He even shares a heartfelt goodbye to Godzilla before the bomb goes off.
Saraba.
Bye, Ken! Thanks for stopping by! There he is! The king is back, boy!
Nobody move!
What the fuck else can we do in a situation like this, dude? Like, really? Hey, look, Millie Bobby Brown and I both make the exact same face when we see Godzilla. Anyways, the finale! It's fun. It's so much fun. Lots of great monster action, lots of good wide shots, kinda rough looking CGI, but still fun. Sadly, Mothra perishes, though I'm honestly used to seeing her die in these movies. She does manage to kill Rodan. Good girl. Rest in peace, Queen. The fight eventually leads to Godzilla becoming thermonuclear Godzilla. Holy crap! This is awesome! He annihilates Ghidorah. Hell yes. Kill that false king piece of shit. After all that is over, all of the remaining titans gather around Godzilla and bow to him. What the fuck? There's another Muto? Bow to the true alpha, the true king. The movie ends with a great cover of the Blue Oyster Cult song, Godzilla, featuring vocals by the lead singer of my favorite band, System of a Down, Serge Tankian. Okay, this movie rocks. In all seriousness, Godzilla King of the Monsters isn't the best movie per se, but it is a very entertainingly satisfying Godzilla movie. 2014 is the better technical movie, but King of the Monsters I would probably recommend more to casual moviegoers. It's a fun little movie with a solid cast, good monster fights, a decent soundtrack, and just an overall good sense of what makes Godzilla great. It took a while, but I think we finally have a proper American-made Godzilla movie that I feel anyone can watch. I had fun watching it in the theater, and I'll continue to have fun watching it in the coming future. Sadly, King of the Monsters wasn't anywhere near as financially successful as the first movie. It barely broke even, making over $380 million against a near $200 million budget. Despite a disappointing box office, a sequel is still being made, and that movie is Godzilla vs. Kong, which got delayed to 2021 due to, you know, COVID. Some of the actors from King of the Monsters are returning for that movie, which is cool. I look forward to seeing them again in this remake of the classic 1962 film. And I recommend checking out King of the Monsters whenever you guys can. It can get goofy as hell, but is that really a surprising thing to see from a Godzilla movie? I don't think so. Yeah. And that's pretty much my reviews of the last 3 Godzilla movies that I can recall. I am fully aware of the Netflix anime trilogy, however I have not seen any of those movies, and I have no real interest in watching them. I heard they were pretty whack anyways, so don't expect me to review them anytime soon, or ever. I guess another Godzilla video I could do in the future would probably be on the video games. I don't have too many of them at the moment. I mainly just have Destroy All Monsters Melee on GameCube, and Save the Earth on Xbox, so I'm not too sure when that video will come out, maybe some other time. But Godzilla video games would definitely be fun to look at in the future. For now though, I think it's time to wrap up my reviews on Godzilla. Again, if you can get me talking about Godzilla, you are opening a Pandora's box. Well, it's time to close it and move on. So, big man, until we meet again, long live the king. And thank you all for watching and listening to me talk about Godzilla for several episodes and several hours. Oi. Love you, Godzilla!